Hey everybody, Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon coming at you today with a new Entitled Parent story. Rich groom plus poor bride equals entitled parents. Let's jump right in. This happened a few years ago, and to be fair, they weren't the worst couple I have dealt with in my career, but even so, wow, were they buttholes to work with. So the backstory, the groom was a rich businessman from the UK that was marrying a single mother from America. Based on the ways their families conducted themselves, it was clear to say that their backgrounds were vastly different. I had been hired to do the wedding video. I was shooting alone, rather uncomfortably I might add, as I had filmed a different wedding the day before, and all the service providers had gotten light cases of food poisoning. Their wedding was on a Sunday, and as I had been hired by the bride side of the family, their budget was fairly limited. Therefore, all pre-ceremony coverage had been cut from their package. I arrived about 30 minutes before the ceremony to see the groom cussing out the DJ about something, I don't actually know what. The ceremony started and didn't add much to the story. The bride's stupid lawn pin, my company's name for kids, was screaming throughout the entire ceremony, making it impossible to hear the sermon and making me feel oh so happy knowing that I was going to get tasked trying to clean up that audio after. Oh, the joys of wedding videos. Cut forward to after the ceremony, with everyone gathering for the couple to sign the register. The couple entered the room and saw something so horrendous that Hitler himself would have shielded his eyes. Something so devastating to their moment that not even God would have had the solution. Right there, right where they wanted to sign, there was a book lying on the table. Get the manager straight away! This book has to be removed! The butthole groom yelled to the closest person in earshot. It took me a moment to register what had just happened before I took a step towards the table, simply picking up the book and putting it back on the shelf. So you'd think that would be the end of it, right? With Satan's obstacle now removed, that they could simply sign the papers and go on with their lives? Nah, this had upset them so much that the room had to be cleared while they took some time alone to rant about how inadequate everyone is and how this book has ruined their entire day. I'm not even joking. They really did say that the book had ruined their entire day. So, eventually the damn register gets signed. The two most dramatic people in the world are now husband and wife, and everyone is standing outside, waiting to throw them with confetti, or maybe hand grenades if there was any justice in this world. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait some more. Finally, the doors open. We wake up from our afternoon naps on our feet. The guests hold their hands ready to throw, only to see the master of ceremonies walk through the door and announce that they won't be coming out as the bride doesn't want the wind messing up her hair. If I had rolled my eyes any bigger, they would have come out of their sockets. Why? Because the bride, not the groom, but the bride was from this area and she knew the wind never stops blowing. Did she think God was going to pause the weather for her while the rest of her guests stand outside burning in the sun for almost 15 minutes? Anyway, move forward to the reception. The couple shoot and family photos had to be postponed to later because, for some reason, the bride thought the wind was going to change. This meant that everyone now entered the reception hall more than 90 minutes earlier than the schedule had stipulated. So what does the groom of the year do? He goes and yells at the wedding coordinator that the first course isn't ready yet. Needless to say, this caused some panic in the kitchen. I should further point out that this wasn't your average 3-course meal, this was 8 freaking courses. So the schedule was something like this: speech, course, times 8, the opening of the dance floor, bouquet and garter, etc. I did my setup quickly as the first speech was about to commence. Only one problem: the number of guests was way too many for the venue's capacity, so there was literally no way for me to get anywhere near the bridal table or the podium where the speakers would be making their speeches. I set up as well as I could a basic 2-camera setup and took a stand behind the main camera. During the speech, I glanced in the direction of my second camera, only to see the bride's lawn pin is trying to climb up my tripod. How the camera didn't fall over might prove that there is a higher power up in the clouds, but nonetheless, I sprinted towards it, grabbing the kid before he could knock over the camera. I put him down, telling him politely not to touch. The camera had moved during the kid's action and was now no longer pointing in any kind of relevant direction. I glanced back at my main camera only to see that the speaker was no longer standing behind the podium and had gone to stand directly behind the couple. I had missed it completely. I sprinted back to my main camera, readjusted the shot, glanced back at my second camera, only to see the damn lawn pin aiming to try and climb up it again. Once more, I sprinted back to my second camera, picked the camera up, and set it right next to the main one. This was the most boring setup I've ever done in my career, but it would now have to do. The speech eventually ended, and the first course was served. I was the only person or service provider not catered for because, honestly, who cares about the videographer? To be fair, this didn't bother me because I wouldn't have been able to eat anyway, but I was still feeling like death and really just wanted to rest for a short while. I waited for the guests to start eating before spotting a sofa at the back of the venue and deciding it looked like a great place to rest. I had just sat down when I was approached by the butthole groom and the lawn pin. "What are you doing now?" Immediately back on my feet. There's really nothing I can shoot at the moment, so just waiting for the next speech. Was there something you needed? Yeah, please watch the stupid kid. And yes, he really did describe his new stepson as the stupid kid. Huh? Yeah, just keep him quiet and make sure he doesn't disturb the guests. What about when the next speech starts? Thank you, the groom said, walking away without answering my question. I looked after him with pleading eyes. This wasn't happening. The kid stared at me. I stared back at him. He continued staring at me and then started wailing his eyes out. FML, I thought to myself. I looked around frantically to see if any of the kid's relatives were gonna come help, but nopes. Giving in to my fate, I climbed down to the floor, opened the kid's backpack, and started unpacking his toys. The kid stopped crying quite quickly as I let him show me his favorite toys. Skip forward about 15 to 20 minutes, the kid and I were in the middle of an intense dinosaur battle when I heard the next speech starting. I had asked the MC to give me a 2-minute warning before each speech so that I could have time to set my cameras up again. I, unfortunately, had to move them away every time as to not block the traffic flow of the waiters. He forgot every single time. I missed the first few seconds of the second speech as I redid my setup, only to hear that the kid had started wailing again. I glanced in the direction of the couple, who were both staring at me with daggers in their eyes. I stared back at them with a look that said, "What the hell do you want me to do about it?" and left the kid to cry as I tried to record the second speech. The speech ended, well, I assume it did. The lawn pin was yelling so loud that I never heard it end. But I'm sitting here typing this story, so I think it's a fair bet. I moved my cameras away again and moved back towards the couch when I was bombarded by the couple. "Why weren't you watching him?" "Because I can't play babysitter and shoot your wedding video at the same time." "Well, I told you to watch him." "And your wife paid me to capture your day on video. Again, I can't do both." "Well, that's very embarrassing for us." A silence followed this, with me and the couple just staring at each other. "Are you waiting for me to say something?" "Just go do your job," the groom snapped before stomping off with his new wife. "Which one?" I yelled after them, once more getting ignored. The rest of the reception played off more or less the same, until I was relieved of my babysitting duties by the bride's sister, aunt, mother, hairstylist. I have no idea who the hell she was, except that I now had to share my sofa. So the reception finally ended. I felt like I had just aged 10 years, and it was now time for the family and couple photos. But what was this? Their praying had helped nothing, and the wind was now blowing even worse than before. Now at this point, any logical bride would probably have been asking herself some questions, specifically, what difference is it going to make if my hair gets messed up now, as almost everything has already been done? And what is the point of even having my hair done if I'm not going to take any decent photos? This bride didn't ask those questions though, and therefore insisted that all her photos, couple and family, take place on the porch, on one single small spot on the porch. So the shoot went like this. I finally get them in frame, and the main photographer blocks me. I try a different angle, and the second photographer blocks me. Hell, I didn't blame the photographers. This was like trying to fit 6 people into a matchbox without taking out the matches. There was simply no space for all of us, and the couple had left this so late that the light was disappearing by the second. If this poor photographer had 20 minutes for all the photos, then I'd be surprised. The next thing to do was getting all the guests back upstairs for the opening of the dance floor. Both the photographer and I had about an hour left on the clock, so we were at least doing well for time. The photographer and I started back up the stairs to do our setup, but were suddenly stopped by the MC. The MC informed us that the bride was tired, so she and the groom were going to retire to the honeymoon suite and would return in about an hour for the opening of the dance floor. The photographer and I looked at each other with kind of a WTF expression, but shrugged it off and went to wait upstairs. News of the couple's temporary departure quickly reached the guests, and within less than 30 minutes, the entire reception hall had emptied, with the exception of the waiters, bar staff, photographers, and myself. Another 30 minutes passed with no sign of the couple returning. Both the photographers and I were now off the clock. The photographers waited another 15 minutes before literally saying, "F this," and leaving. I wanted to do the same. My God, did I want to do the same. But the video I had taken so far was so bad. It was nightmare fuel bad, and I simply could not bring myself to leave without at least capturing the opening of the dance floor. And so I continued to wait for another 90 minutes. Finally, the couple returned, followed by around 10 or 15 guests. All of them now wore their casual attire and looked like they were ready for a night at a dodgy nightclub. And then I heard the words that finally made me lose my patience. The couple isn't going to open the dance floor anymore. I stared at the couple with a livid expression on my face as the hip-hop music started playing. The groom took to the bar, and the bride started throwing grotesque dance moves with her grotesque friends, all now wearing scantily fitting outfits. Seeing this, I picked up my gear and walked out of the room without saying goodbye to the couple. I did, predictably, get an email from the groom a few days later telling me to remove all the lawn pins crying from the video and that they expected the video to be a true representation of their special day. That, I can say, it definitely was. Okay, I'm going to reserve my comments on this one. I want to get a little bit of interaction from you, the viewer, who has just listened to this story. So if you were in the shoes of the photographer, would you have agreed even at all to be looking after this kid while trying to do your job, which has already turned into a pretty big shit show? Let me know down in the comments section below. Also, drop a like on this video, guys. It helps me out in the long run. I want to thank OP for posting their story to the Entitled Parents subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you in the next one.